Was that Tom Brady or Payton Thorne leading the Auburn offense against ULM Saturday? People are asking. It's a busy day. We have basketball tonight. We have football to talk about. He's Zach Blackerby. I'm Brad Law, and I love the look on his face when we lead with that immediately. Hey, this show brought to you by mybookie.ag. Use promo code NEXTROUND to double your initial deposit. Have some fun. November, man. Basketball, football.
Oh,
I mean, you could play every day. And make sure you use mybookie.ag to do it. Promo code NEXTROUND, doubling the initial deposit. Okay, Zach, before we talk game day for basketball.
Sure.
Auburn football did not win an SEC championship Saturday. They didn't beat an SEC team Saturday.
Sure.
Okay? Nothing you could do about the opponent on the schedule.
Sure.
Couldn't. It's out of your control. All right. But what you wanted to see was a good game plan. You wanted to see execution. You wanted to see some purpose and some intentionality. And you saw that. You saw that from start to finish Saturday.
Yeah, you did. You did. And you saw guys execute. In fact, I picked Auburn to not cover. I picked the under in this game, and Auburn exceeded all of that. They exceeded what the lines were. They exceeded what a lot of expectations were. Was it against ULM? Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's, obviously you want to see them do that again this weekend against Texas A&M, but the game plan that you mentioned, I loved it. They went to Jarquez early, and, he didn't have a crazy amount of touches because there wasn't any reason to give him the football late in the game, but 14 touches for 102 yards gave him enough to pass a few milestones on the season, which is super, super cool for Jarquez. But the way they used Malcolm Simmons was my favorite part of the game plan. The quick passes behind the line of scrimmage, get him in space and see what happens. And then, obviously he had the catch and run for 40 yards for a touchdown as well. They targeted Cam Coleman 8 times, resulting in 8 catches and 3 touchdowns. I love the game plan, and I love how they kind of spread the wealth against the ULM team. Now, the question is, how do you take what you did Saturday and apply it to what you're going to need to do against Texas A&M this weekend?
Right. And I would say Jarquez Hunter with 14 touches in 2.5 quarters or so. I'd have to go back and look and see when his last touch was, or when the bulk of the
15 touches. He got 1 catch too in the red zone. Yep.
15 and 3 quarters is probably, I don't know that that's enough against Texas A&M, but it's at least in the ballpark if you proportionally for what you're going to need him.
Yeah, sure.
You're going to need him the whole game Saturday. So,
sure.
Again, we can project and we will and talk about what you got to do against Texas A&M, but just in the vacuum of this game and what you wanted to see on this game, the fact that they targeted Cam Coleman, Keandre Lambert-Smith, and Malcolm Simmons a total of 23 times. They targeted Coleman 9, KLS 8, Simmons 6.
Okay.
That's the right number of targets for those 3 players. Don't you think?
Yes.
I mean,
think so.
Yeah. And you saw it early. Cam was targeted 3 times on the very first drive of the game. Of Auburn's 60 yards on their first drive, he had 35 of them on 3 catches. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah.
And that's against the ULM team that had been better against the pass than they had been against the run. The best part of their team are their defensive backs.
Sure. Yeah, and defensively for sure. Very impressed with their running back. Very impressed with their running back too. Yeah. Hardy, I think's his name. Yeah, I thought he was great too. But yeah, you're right. You're right as far as market share and all that and how they were used. Like KLS was used some in the intermediate game, but he was also a threat, outside the numbers. Cam Coleman, they did a few different things with as far as, given the opportunity to make plays in the red zone, or I guess in the end zone. It wasn't technically a red zone play, but you know what I mean? Yeah. As well as, just get him the ball in short yardage situations and just see what happens. Like they did it in so many different, or at least they did it in the ways that we kind of thought would make sense with each of these receivers and their skill sets.
Yeah.
And then, Malcolm, just get him the football in space and see what happens. It doesn't matter if it's downfield or behind the line of scrimmage. So yeah, I'm with you. I loved that. Now, my question is, why can we put these game plans together against ULM and not SEC teams?
Right.
Did the game plan work because our guys are so much more talented than ULM?
Right.
or did it work because schematically it felt better?
Yeah.
Or both. That's the next question that Auburn needs to answer.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. ULM didn't have any sacks. I don't remember a time that they got a lot of pressure on Peyton, aside from the drive to close the first half. They got some pressure on him, and he made plays, got out of it, kind of kept the drive going, and they eventually scored a touchdown on that drive. And we're going to come back to Peyton's play here in a little while. But, yeah, it's a good question. Teams that are better at getting pressure on the quarterback are able to disrupt the offense more. That could be part of it. Hugh Freeze said on our post-game show that they just kind of made the decision to do this coming out of the bye week, that less is more. And it sounded a little bit like, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it sounded kind of like what we've been talking about for a few weeks, like identify your best players, get them the ball. It really isn't a lot more complicated than that. Identify your best players, try to get them the ball. But it sounded like they just kind of were determined to come out and do this, and they happened to execute at such a level that they could keep doing it.
Yeah, which, begs the question, like, you needed a bye week to know you needed to get it to Cam Coleman and KLS and Malcolm and Jarquez, but
the second bye week.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. I'm glad they did it. It was fun to watch the offense on Saturday. You made the comment about pressures. Auburn allowed one hurry, according to Pro Football Focus. It was a Braden Joyner allowed hurry. And that was the only one. That was the only pressure in the game, according to PFF.
My guess is that was on that drive just before the half, that when they ran the 2-minute offense.
Yeah.
That was the only time that you really felt like, this isn't fully, they're not fully in sync, or they're on their heels a little bit for the first half of that drive. And then they hit the big play, I think, to Fairweather. And then the next play was the touchdown, and that was it. So
Right. But all in all, like, I liked what they did. I like what they did for sure. Can they do it against Texas A&M? That's the big question.
Yeah, or to what extent? You're not going to do exactly that. You're not going to have 500 yards of offense against Texas A&M. You're not going to throw for 300 and rush for 200. That's not – you can't expect
Can I point out a pet peeve just real quick?
Sure.
Do you mind?
No.
There were so many Auburn fans, the negative ones, that were like, oh, we're going to lose against ULM. We're not winning another game. And then Auburn wins, and the same people are like, oh, well, it's ULM.
Yeah.
Like, no, you picked us to lose against them. So, like, which is it?
Yeah.
Which is it? That drives me crazy.
Is that your number one fan pet peeve?
Yes, but my number one fan pet peeve, and it's not just Auburn, it's in any aspect of life, where you just dramatically shift the goalposts.
Yeah.
Because you need to. And it's like that with anything. It's more than just college football, but like that is my biggest pet peeve. And it's like, well, that's not what we talked about 5 days ago.
Right.
What we talked about was this, It's yeah, I think so.
Okay. Gotcha. That's fair. That's fair. I was surprised. I heard some boo birds when Peyton was announced as the starter on the video board, but not that many. Like, not
good. I'm glad it wasn't many.
It wasn't that bad. I was surprised.
And if you're paying attention, like at that point, like you knew Thorne was the starter. It's not like it was a boo out of shock. Surely, if you're paying somewhat attention.
No, it was a premeditated jerk thing to do, but it wasn't out of shock. Yes. Like, you were one of the people who, when we said on the show Friday, look, don't boo, because it doesn't do anything. Like, we gave you every logical, not emotional, just logical, straightforward, it's not productive. And you were just like, nah, I'm going to do it anyway. You can't stop me.
Yeah. And it's like, if you just don't want Peyton Thorne to be Auburn's quarterback, like, whatever. That's like, you got 2 more games.
Yeah.
You got cheer for him for 2 more games.
Maybe
and then
3.
Maybe 3.
Yeah.
And then, I think you're going to be like, dang it. Why couldn't he keep winning if he does play 3? Because that'd be awesome. But, if you're just this Auburn fan who just can't stand Peyton Thorne, like, cheer for him for 2 more games. And then, let the chips fall where they do in December as far as who's the next quarterback. But there's no reason to boo the guy. Especially, I hate it when home teams boo their own team. It drives me crazy.
Well, I don't mind it when people like Georgia. I don't mind it when Georgia does it. I don't mind it when I don't mind it when LSU does it. Certainly don't mind it if Alabama gets to the level, when they get to the level that they do it again.
Yeah, sure.
I don't like our people doing it. Don't like it. It's just not. it does way more harm than good.
Yeah,
Whether,
when recruiting is up and
whether you want to admit it or not, it does more harm than good. Just because you don't think it does,
yeah,
you have every right to believe what you want to believe, but you're wrong. It does far more damage than it does good.
it does. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And with recruiting kind of being up in the air, and with our whole thing is like family,
Yeah,
and all that stuff. It's like, if we're doing that, like, we can't be booing our own players.
right.
We can't do it.
Now, look, would I like Peyton to wear some Auburn gear when he does interviews, like with the next round, rather than just neutral stuff? Sure, I'd like that. But still, he's the Auburn quarterback. Let's cheer the Auburn quarterback, no matter who, whether it's Walker White or Payton Thorne or whoever else is in the game at any point in time. And oh, by the way,
Yes.
Peyton looked great Saturday.
Yeah.
Can we talk about
according to your open, you mistook him for
Yeah.
Tom Brady.
When did Tom put on the number 1? Did the 2 fall off of his jersey?
So.
Let me tell you too, we live in such a culture of quitting. We live in a quitting culture. We have every reason around us to just quit when stuff gets difficult or when we face adversity. We have every opportunity to quit.
100%. Yeah.
And boy, how easy would it have been for all the criticism and all the difficulty and adversity for him just to not give his best effort. And
yeah, no question. No question. And this is a guy who got benched a few weeks ago, got his opportunity back, and has held on to the starting job since then. And apparently his shoulder was pretty banged up if he missed that much of practice, and had to really battle through to get back in shape. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And like, he knew he was probably going to get booed by some fans out there. Like, he knew what the process was going to be. So, you know, you can say what you want about Peyton, but you can't question his toughness. And at this point, I don't think you can question his character. I mean, I think he's been a really solid, really solid in that regard. So.
And look, some of the criticism this year has been warranted. We haven't shied away from that at all. He hasn't had the best quarterback season that we've seen around here, but one game has nothing to do with the next. And he had the first 5 touchdown games since Jarrett Stidham did it in the bowl game after the 2018 season. So what I thought was interesting, I didn't get this note until we were just about to go off the air Saturday. So against ULM, Auburn had a 100-yard rusher and 2 100-yard receivers. Did you see the stat on the last time that had happened?
No.
What would be your guess? Top of your head, no warning. 100-yard rusher.
Obviously, the 200-yard receivers is the. I would guess sometime in the 2014 season.
Yeah, wrong. Further back than that.
I'm just thinking some of those weird, like that LSU game, they scored a lot. Even the Iron Bowl, like that was crazy yardage in 2014. So that was kind of my thought process.
Yeah. No,
farther back than that.
Thinking.
I can't imagine. They didn't do it in 2010, did they?
No.
They wouldn't have done it in 2004, would they?
No, but that could have been. I mean, they had the receivers, they had the running backs.
They didn't run that. I mean, that just wasn't that wasn't really their offense. Right. I don't know.
1994 at Florida.
I was 1.
94 at Florida. Stephen Davis went over 100. Okay. And then Thomas Bailey and Andy Fuller had over 100 yards. Not even Frank Sanders, who had the catch, but Thomas Bailey and Andy Fuller went over 100 yards each in that game. 94 Florida, the last time Auburn. Now think about all of the team. Think about some of the cupcake games Auburn has had, some of the stat padding games Auburn has had.
Yeah.
They haven't had 200-yard receivers and 100-yard rushers since 94 until Saturday.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I don't care who you do that against. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. There's another stat I want to mention in just a second. That's coming up on Village Vice. I want to tell you, Christmas is almost here. Don't let the holiday shopping, the Christmas shopping, sneak up on you. Go to Rhoback.com, whether it's for the man or woman in your life. Rhoback has you covered on all fronts. RHOBACK.com. They've got the best hoodies in the game, the best collared shirts in the game, best hats. They've got the best everything, Brad Law. They've even got their game day collection where they've got their Auburn swag. It looks good. It looks so good. So head over to Rhoback.com. Take some time. Their catalog is mighty expansive. And once you settle in on what you need to buy, don't pay full price. Use promo code VICE20 for 20% off your order at rowback.com. When you look at the SEC passing yards, I mean, I want us all to think back, and this is what makes this season so frustrating, is because all we said all offseason was with the defense being what we thought they would be, and in fact, they're better than I thought they would be. We were just like, okay, if Peyton can just be, around the 8th best quarterback in the SEC, Auburn's got a shot. And when you look at it, Peyton is 6th in passing yardage in the conference, and he missed a game and a half. And like when you think about that New Mexico game, like he probably would have had a similar stat line than Hank. I don't think that's crazy to say. And so he's got 2,111 yards. And if you give him the New Mexico game, he's probably at 2,400. And that would put him at 4th, which is just kind of amazing to think about. And, the guy's thrown 18 touchdowns. Where does that rank? That's 5th.
I would get
among quarterbacks.
Top 3rd. Yeah.
Yeah, that's 5th without the New Mexico game. And so if you have that, he's probably 22-ish. And that would he'd be at 21 or 22. And those are the leaders. Garrett Nussmeier and Jackson Dart have 22. And so it's just kind of amazing to think about statistically, he's doing what we all would have dreamed of. If you would have told me that Peyton would have been on pace to be a top 3 quarterback when it comes to passing touchdowns, and on pace to be a top 4 or 5 when it comes to passing yards in the SEC going into the season, and I told you that KLS is tied for the lead in touchdown receptions in the SEC,
and Jarquez
Hunter is the number. Jarquez Hunter is the number. I assume he's number 2 still rusher in the SEC going into it, and the defense is better than you thought. Like we all would have been like, are we going 10-2?
Yeah. Well, again,
it's just so frustrating. It's so frustrating.
It goes back to Thursday or Friday.
I'm sorry, Brad, just real quick. I'm so sorry, just real quick.
Yeah.
And for the folks saying, well, it's about the turnovers. Early on, that was true. Early on, that was true. But now when you look at the top quarterbacks in the league, Peyton has 12 picks on the year, which is not good. I'm not defending that. But when you look at over the course of the season, Garrett Nussmeier has 11 picks. Who else is around him? Peyton has 7.
Yeah.
Carson Beck has 12. Garrett Nussmeier has 11. Who else is up here? Taylon Green, who's up here. He's got 8 picks. So it's not like...
And Peyton has 7?
Yes.
So he has fewer picks than Green and Beck and Nussmeier.
Yeah, then Quinn Ewers has 6. So it's not like those few games were awful.
Yeah.
And there were a few picks that like he got bailed out of, like the pick in the end zone against Cal and all that. And this doesn't count turnover on downs with poor decisions made on 4th and short or whatever.
Sure.
But the whole argument of like the turnovers are why the offense isn't working, that was true against Cal and against Arkansas. Not really true against Oklahoma outside of the pick 6, obviously. Yeah. But like Vandy, that wasn't the key issue. And so like it's deeper than that. Yeah. So I could just hear people typing like, well, it's because you throw so many picks. It's like, not as really. Of late, like as a season, like that's not really true compared to these other guys in these good offenses.
Yeah. I mean, I do hate to repeat content over and over again, but I'm really starting to get more firmly on board with this. If we could have made field goals, we're 6-4 instead of 4-6. I mean, 6-4. How different would you feel at 6-4 right now versus 4-6?
Yeah.
You'd feel so much different. You feel different about the Texas A&M game. You'd feel a little different about the Alabama game, probably. Let me ask you another Peyton Thorne question. Let's open up those French doors again, and please walk with me onto the balcony of hypotheticals. Okay? Come on.
The BOH, if you will.
The BOH again. We're going on to BOH again. Oh, the air is crisp out here. And
it's a little cooler on the balcony of hypotheticals.
Well, but you got
the BOH, if you will.
We're on the BOH. You got your hoodie. I got my long sleeve. We're good. We're comfortable.
Yeah, sure.
Beautiful day. Auburn beats Texas A&M and Alabama. Hypothetically.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
Finish the regular season 6-6. Regardless of what happens in the bowl game.
Sure.
How do we remember Peyton Thorne?
If he beats Alabama, you remember him fondly.
Yeah.
You remember him fondly. Especially, I think, when's the last time we've gone to Bama and won?
2010.
2010. Cam's last to do it? Yes. Yeah. No, the whole legacy of Peyton Thorne is rewritten if he wins the Iron Bowl.
What an opportunity in these next 2 games.
It'd be great.
I mean,
I
how
hope he does it.
compelling,
That'd be awesome.
how compelling do these last 2 games of the regular season become? A chance to finish a movie that you otherwise thought was kind of ordinary, frankly, on a really high note.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So, all right. Thanks for jumping on or coming out on the BOH with me.
Yeah, the balcony of hypotheticals. Yeah, the BOH, if you will. You want to pivot to basketball just for a second?
I do, yeah.
They play North Alabama tonight.
Yeah. This is a good North Alabama team. They play up-tempo. They hung with Samford, and we know what kind of tempo and how offensively powerful Samford is. BP is warning against just taking this team for granted. Auburn's, I think, a 30-point favorite or close to it.
I think it's 24.5 on my book.
Is it 24.5? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
It's not a game I expect to be close, like when it's in the balance. I think they can hang and score and play fast, and I think it's harder to speed them up than it is a couple of teams Auburn's played this year.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this is a terrific tune-up before you go to Maui next week.
Yeah, they're 3-1. North Alabama's 3-1 on the year. They're the 161st team in the country, according to Ken Palm, which Auburn is number 1 in the country, according to Ken Palm. Just can't stress that enough. So excited to see what this is. Yeah, if they want to run and make it fast, I think that plays into Auburn's favor. If you run with this team, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. I mean, Houston tried it, and that's when they weren't as good against Auburn. So curious to see if that is their game plan tonight.
Yeah.
To me, there's going to be speculation on who doesn't play, assuming people don't play still. And then I'm going to be wondering, okay, we've seen Janai Broome. The story so far is you've kind of got 3 constants.
Yeah.
You've got Janai Broome, you've got Chaney Johnson, and then you've got Chad Baker-Mazara, who's been pretty close to a similar stat line every game. Do those 3 constants remain the same? And then do we have somebody who's already stepped up kind of pop off from deep, or does somebody else do it? We haven't seen Denver go yet. We haven't seen Pegues really have a night yet. So that to me is what I'm looking for, is okay, do the story of the season, does it continue going, whereas those 3 constants, then somebody else has a day?
Yeah, no, that's good. And North Alabama, they held a couple of opponents under 60. They're not bad defensively, too. Do they try to do what Kent State did and take away those guards with a 2-3 zone? Are they going to play some 2-3 zone like we saw Kent State play? Will they try to take away the perimeter way up top? And if they do that, does Auburn go a little quicker inside to Chaney and Janai? I mean, I love that about the Kent State game, that they were exposed a little bit against a 2-3 zone, because it's November. Now, if somebody else tries to play a 2-3 zone, a lot faster.
Yeah, and that's going to happen because it worked.
Yeah, so I love it. It's a late game. There's no reason for this game to be at 8 o'clock, but it is. So there you go. I mean, I still think it'll be a rowdy place. Makes for an interesting day for us, because Andy's not on Tiger Talk tonight, and I'm not on basketball tonight. So I'm doing Tiger Talk solo with Coach Freeze and Coach Crouch. Come to Baumhauer's and see us in person, by the way. That'd be great if you haven't done that yet. Yeah. And if you're going to basketball, you could still have time, because after Tiger Talk is over, you got an hour before basketball starts. So
yeah. Hey, Brad, the number of undefeated teams in the SEC went down this weekend. What's up with that?
It did. Purdue, Peacock does a really good job with their basketball coverage. I really enjoyed Peacock's coverage of college basketball Friday night.
Okay.
I thought they did a really good job with Purdue and Alabama. So kudos to them for their production work.
Cool. All right.
Purdue looked excellent. Braden Smith, the guard, is really, really tough to handle. Alabama looked very good too. They couldn't hang 40 minutes in West Lafayette. That's a tough place to play.
Yeah. And so obviously Auburn plays both of those teams. So
yeah,
they play Purdue and Birmingham later this year. And that's going to be, probably a top 5 matchup, top 8 matchup, something like that.
I think so.
We'll see. And Purdue was kind of one of those teams that I had Isaac Shade, who's the host of Locked On College Basketball on, we were talking about Auburn's loaded non-conference schedule. I'm like, which is the team on here that could fall off? And he actually picked Purdue because he's like, they've got to replace Zach Edey. There's a lot of questions there. He's like, they could be good, but there's also reasons why they're not as good as they normally are. The big one was Zach Edey. So far, they seem great. So
no, they've been good. Smith is exceptional. He's a first-team All-American caliber guard.
Yeah,
from what I saw Friday against Alabama. And then their big guy, Alabama got their big guy in foul trouble in the first few minutes of the game. He missed a good chunk of the first half, but they couldn't do enough they couldn't do enough with him on the bench to overcome when he was able to come back in.
Got it. Brad, I think that about does it for today's show.
It does. Go to thebarnauburn.com. Join the best message board community for Auburn fans out there. It's only $1 for your first month. So check it out at thebarnauburn.com. And remember, until next time, everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.